When most people hear the term mental health, what do they think of? Well, chances are what you just thought of is depression, anxiety, burnout, or PTSD. And hey, look, fair enough. Those things matter. They're important to our well-being. They're real. They're serious. But here's the thing. They're not actually examples of positive mental health. They're examples of mental ill health. And that's only half the picture when it comes to mental health and well-being. And what if I told you that the opposite of mental illness isn't just feeling okay and getting by? The opposite of mental illness is mental wellness. It's feeling calm. It's having clarity in your thinking and feeling. It's feeling confident, connected, vibrant, fulfilled, resilient. It's not just about surviving and getting by in life. It's actually about flourishing and thriving and fulfilling your potential. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how our current conversations and frameworks around mental health are often incomplete. And we're going to talk about how we can expand those frameworks and those definitions with science-backed solutions. So we're not just talking about what's going wrong with people, but also exploring what's going right with our mental well-being. Let's dive on in. Now, to start with the obvious, over the past 20 years, we have made huge strides with mental health awareness. And I'm really glad we have. It's a really important thing that people are talking about this more. There's less stigma. There's more openness. People are more willing to say, hey, I'm not doing okay. I need some support. And this is crucial for our happiness and thriving as a society. It's fantastic that we're doing this. We're putting up posters in workplaces. We're hosting Are You OK Day events. We tell people to speak up and that it's not weak to speak. But then what happens? Without tools and support and real change, awareness can kind of become a dead end. And it feels like people just become aware of their struggles without really knowing what to do about them. Even worse, we've then unintentionally narrowed the definition or perspective of mental health to only mean discussions about mental illness. And as a result, we often wait until people are in crisis before we step in and offer them support, frameworks, and tools that benefit their mental and emotional well-being. So if we're not just going to focus on mental ill health, then what should we focus on? Well, I'm a huge fan of the model called the well-being spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, we have crisis. That's clinical mental illness. It's where somebody's capacity to function in day-to-day life is severely impaired and they need as much support and timely intervention as possible to help them get through this stage. Then we have the stage called struggling. This is where there's ongoing emotional distress, burnout, and anxiety, but people are still able to largely show up for work and function day to day. They're just really feeling the burden of their mental and emotional load. Again, we need to support and give guidance and resources as much as possible there. We then move into a stage called surviving. I believe a lot of people are here because they're waiting to hit the struggling point before they ask for help, before they reach out and get resources and tools and guidance. In surviving, people are just getting by. They're not doing great, but they're managing. I think a lot of the population would end up in this space. They're not feeling their best. They're not fulfilling their potential. They're not thriving. They're not necessarily happy and fulfilled. But hey, life could be a lot worse, right? Especially in Australia where we have a bit of an Aussie battler syndrome in our mentality where it's like doing it tough and getting by is kind of celebrated and rewarded. And if you say that you're doing well or you're trying to do well, it's kind of a bit of tall poppy syndrome. You get cut down a little bit. So we need to move through surviving. The next stage of the well-being spectrum is to move into growing. At this stage, people are developing the tools, they're building resilience, they're increasing their capacity. They're learning about the skills and science of happiness, just as you are right now. They're getting support and guidance to expand their emotional vocabulary and their ability to manage their mind and emotions, not just when times are tough and they're doing it tough, but also when times are going well. They're learning how to savor and broaden that. And finally, last but not least, is flourishing. This is the goal. This is where I believe we should be aiming to help society get to, a space of mental and emotional flourishing where people feel good, where they function well, where they're fulfilling their potential. There's so much more to life than just getting by and feeling okay. We need to start going, hey, are we helping people have the resources, the support, and the tools to go past feeling okay and to start feeling their best? Now, most mental health conversations and initiatives are stuck in the red and orange zones. They're stuck in crisis and suffering, but not looking further ahead. If we only treat illness, we miss the opportunity to cultivate wellness as a society. Now, thankfully, I'm not the only person who thinks this way. I get to stand on the shoulders of the giants who've come before me. In the late 1990s, there was a great psychologist named Dr. Martin Seligman, still around today doing great work, who ironically spent most of his early career studying depression. That was his focus, like a lot of psychologists of the time. he had a light bulb moment and went, hey, we've done a lot of research into what can go, quote unquote, wrong with people and wrong with our mental health and well-being. We've done very little research into what can go right with people and right with our mental well-being. And this moment sparked the birth of positive psychology, the scientific study of human flourishing. It's what I've dedicated my career to studying. It's what I have my master's degree in. It's something that we use very frequently at the happiness college that I run at, BU Happiness College. Positive psychology focuses not just on how to heal suffering and alleviate suffering, but also how to build well-being, how to build happiness. And since then, thousands of peer-reviewed studies have explored what actually helps humans thrive, what helps us feel our best. We're talking about things like purpose, connection, kindness, altruism, gratitude, optimism. These are all things that make a difference, and they're measurable and buildable. They're skills. What this then led to is further exploration of, well, hang on, if we're broadening our definition of mental well-being and mental health, and we're not just focusing on ill health, we're now also exploring the good. Well, what's in the middle? What's in this, messy gray space between the light and the dark, the good and the bad, the struggling times and the thriving times? And this is a word that you may have heard of before. It went a bit viral during the COVID-19 pandemic. The word is languishing. Now, psychologist Adam Grant described this word as kind of the void between depression and flourishing. It's a sense of stagnation in life, a sense of emptiness, a sense of just kind of getting by. Like you're not in full-blown crisis, but you don't feel like you're living either. Your brain goes, hey, it could be a lot worse. And then another part of your brain goes, it could also be a lot better. You're kind of just existing. You're ticking the boxes each week. You're getting through. You're turning the wheels, but you're tired. You're numb. You're stuck in the middle and not really sure where to move forward. Well, that's largely because we don't have a mental health system focused on giving people the tools and the support networks and the guidance to go from a space of mental and emotional survival into a space of mental and emotional flourishing, until positive psychologists like Susie Green, Tim Sharp, other great researchers, and myself started going, hey, let's teach people this. Let's bring this to the population. Let's make this more accessible. Let's democratize the skills and science of happiness. And this has a massively positive impact on people's well-being. According to research from Keyes in 2002, flourishing adults, people who reach that fifth stage of the well-being spectrum, those with high emotional, psychological, and social well-being, they're not only more productive in life and more capable in their life, they're also less likely to experience depression, anxiety, or chronic illness when things go wrong and life gives them a curveball. This means that well-being is protective. It's like a buffer against the tough times that we're all going to face. And so with this in mind, shouldn't we actually all be aiming to flourish, not just get by? Shouldn't we be focusing on creating a mental health system that helps people not only move from -10 to neutral and getting by, but also helps enable them to go from neutral to +10. My hope is that we're entering a new era of mental health. We've had the era of awareness now. What we need moving forward is an era of mental health action that's backed by real tools, real support, not just slogans, an era of mental health accessibility. So mental health that's actually available to everyone, not just people with private insurance. Mental health advocacy, so addressing the systems and the systemic impacts that cause burnout and stress, things like toxic workplaces and economic inequality, and not just say, hey, mental health is an individualistic pursuit and it's only on you as an individual to solve. We need to look at societal contributions, and we need to look at mental health and emotional well-being autonomy, which is teaching people the skills to manage their own well-being so that they're not dependent forever on professionals. They become empowered to manage their own mind and emotions more effectively. Because if we don't do this, if we don't move from mental health awareness alone into mental health action, accessibility, advocacy, and autonomy, my worry is we're going to continue seeing Australia and a lot of the developed world having both an overdiagnosis and an underdiagnosis problem in mental health. Some people who are deep into stress and in those crisis and suffering stages of the wellbeing spectrum, they're falling through the cracks. They can't get access to support when they need it due to geographical constraints, financial constraints, whatever it may be, stigma still. Meanwhile, other people are being told that they have a disorder when they're actually just having a really completely human reaction to a dysfunctional environment or a challenging life circumstance. Something inherently wrong with them and their brain. They just don't have the support and tools and resources to manage the cards that life has dealt them for that chapter of life. In the middle of all this, I think we've forgotten to say loudly and proudly, hey, mental health can be a positive thing too. It's not just about alleviating suffering. That's very important. I don't want to take away from this. We're not just focused on the good, but we need to broaden our perspective to not only just focus on the challenges of our mental well-being either. I think mental health should also be about joy and calmness and connection and meaning, clarity, fulfillment, confidence, all these things that matter and make life worth living. Mental health support should be focused on helping people wake up and think, I feel like I'm actually living. I feel strong enough to face the day, and I know who I am and what my definition of happiness is. This isn't just nice to have, it's a necessity, because emotionally healthy people raise healthier kids. They build better workplaces. They create more compassionate communities. They spread a ripple effect that makes society as a whole happier and healthier. Like psychologist Nicholas Christakis studied social networks and found that happiness is contagious. If a friend of yours becomes happier, your chance of becoming happier goes up by 15%. That's wild. We are all each other's emotional ecosystems. And so if we expand our approach to that ecosystem to not just focus on what are the weeds we need to remove from our thinking and our emotional state, what are the challenges we need to solve in our ecosystem, to what are the flowers we're planting? What are we cultivating that's good for the future? So here's what I believe at the end of the day. We cannot talk about mental health without also talking about mental well-being. We need to widen the conversation, not just to ask, are you okay, especially once a year during a national campaign, but also ask people, do you feel like you're growing? Do you feel fulfilled and happy in life? Do you feel supported and resourced to thrive and fulfill your potential? That's the shift that we need to move towards. At BU Happiness College, that's literally our whole thing. We don't just work with people in crisis. In fact, a lot of the time, if people are in crisis or distress, we refer out to clinical psychology. We do a lot of work with people who are in that space of languishing, where they're stuck in the middle and going, I'm ticking the boxes of life, but not feeling like I'm moving forward. We do a lot of work with people who are in that space of mental health survival, where they're getting by, but they're not feeling their best. And we help people learn the skills and science of happiness and resilience before things fall apart, before things hit rock bottom. So if you want to start building those skills today and learning more and moving yourself up that mental well-being spectrum, check out the tools and courses that we've got linked in the description of this video. But whether you choose to work with us or not, please, please, please promise me this. Don't just settle for surviving when it comes to your mental health. You deserve to flourish. Now, if this video opened your eyes to the full picture of mental health, if it expanded your definition of mental health and well-being, it would mean the world to me if you can like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. It helps these ideas and these conversations reach more people. And it helps spread a ripple effect that can hopefully make society as a whole just a little bit happier. I'd also love for you to tell me in the comments, which part of the well-being spectrum do you think you're currently at right now? And what's one step that you think you can take off the back of this video to start moving a little more intentionally towards a life of flourishing? Thank you always for taking the time to watch, to learn more about the skills and science of happiness. And as always, here's to you becoming your happiest and best self.